Now, thirdly, in my last 15 minutes or so, some basic themes. This book here is, again, I took this picture the other day. It's I just opened at random one of the acta of the council. So it's, I think it's in Latin probably. But they're beautifully printed, these books. If you ever get a chance to go up to the library, and they're kind of in the back of the library, you can see that bunch of books. I love those books. I was doing some work. I published a commentary on the mission document a couple of years ago, and I just loved reading these things and holding them. It was just so wonderful to be in the presence of all of this. As I said earlier, we're not talking so much about topics, but kind of underlying themes that are going on all through the council. John O'Malley talks of them as four, kind of 3 and 1, but I put them together as 4, and they are as follows. First of all, aggiornamento. Secondly, ressourcement. Thirdly, development of doctrine. And fourthly, rhetorical tone. Well, let's look at each one of these just a little bit in detail. You know aggiornamento. That's certainly the word that was said a lot during the council, and we know about, Pope John wanted, that we need to have aggiornamento della Chiesa. Literally means bringing up to date. Giorno is the word for day. So a giorno, to the day. Bring the church up to date. John the 23rd, of course, we also know this famous one. Let's open the windows of the church and let in some fresh air. So let's have the church become more relevant to all these problems that we've kind of not looked at before. In his opening speech, famous opening speech at Vatican II, he talked about how, there's this continuity that we have to have. The substance of the faith always remains the same. But the way it is presented is quite another thing. And so we have to keep the substance of the faith, but we have to present it in a way that is up to date, that actually speaks to the women and men of our time. So this is this idea of aggiornamento. It's a kind of in a way, a kind of a translation of what is always and everywhere true, but can be expressed in different, new, exciting, relevant ways. And so Catholicism had to adapt to the modern world. And when you think about this, 100 years ago, the popes were saying there is no way we will ever open up to this modern world, this progress, all this, this scientism and anti-clericalism and all this stuff. 100 years later, they're saying, no, we need to open the windows to this modern world. It was an amazing turnabout. If you know the way the church was so much against things like democracy in the 19th century, and now the church is getting up to date. Ressourcement. Oh, I'm sorry. That somehow that title under there slipped away. That is the famous Dominican theologian, one of the great theologians of the 20th century, Yves Congar. And he's one of the champions of this ressourcement, which kind of goes back to Erasmus in the time of the Renaissance, when his great battle cry, if you will, if I can use that, was ad fontes, to the sources. We need to go back to the Bible. We need to go back to to the early theologians of the church and drink deeply from that. And there was that biblical renewal that was going on from the middle of the 19th century. Jean Danielou, another one of these great people who would go back and retrieve so much truth and beauty and freshness from the sources, made the remark that there has never been a renewal in the church without a renewal of the early theologians of the church, the early fathers of the church. And so there was this idea that we need to, in a way, update ourselves by going back and seeing, what the tradition has to offer, the real tradition, what that has to offer the church. And to see the ways that maybe in the past we've gone wrong. And we need to correct our course, by looking more freshly at the Bible and by looking more freshly at the early theologians of the church. So we have to study the sources that will reveal the mistakes in the present.